Section 5.7, we're going to solve equations by factoring. So first of all, we need to make sure our equation is set equal to 0. And then now we want to factor our left-hand side. So we're going to use our rooftop method. What multiplies, since there's a known 1 there, what multiplies to give us 24. But when I add them together, I want to get a negative 10. So let's just work with factors of 24. 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 8 is 24, and 4 times 6 is 24. Let's just stop there and see if anything works. Now, I need them to give me a negative 10. Well, 4 and 6 can give me a 10, but I need it to be negative. So that means both of them get to be negative, and I need to check. Negative 4 times negative 6 is a positive 24. Negative 4 plus negative 6 is a negative 10. So once I have my factors, I take my coefficient, which is a 1, and I split the variable. So I have 1y and I have a 1y. Put it over my first factor, which is negative 4, and my second factor, which was negative 6, and those are here. Simplify, which doesn't, so I get y minus 4. And my other factor is going to be y minus 6. Set that equal to 0. Now all that I have to do to solve this is I take this first parenthesis and set it equal to 0 and solve, and then I take my second parenthesis, set it equal to 0 and solve. So my first one, I'm just going to add 4 to both sides, and I get y equals 4. That's one of my solutions. And then for my next one, I add 6 to both sides, and I'm going to get the solution y equals 6. So my two answers are 4 and 6. My next example, I need to distribute first of all, and that's going to give me 2n squared minus 3n equals 2, and I also need this to be a 0, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So the first thing I got to do is simplify this. So I have 2n squared minus 3n minus 2 equals 0. Now I want to try rooftop. What multiplies to give me a negative 4, but it's going to add to give me a negative 3. So 4 is just 4 times 1, and I need it to become a negative 3, so that means this one needs to be negative. Now I want to check my factors and make sure it works. When I multiply them, I get negative 4. When I add them, I get negative 3. So once I have my factors, I take this coefficient, 2, and I split that variable up. So I have 2n and a 2n. Put it over my first factor, which is a negative 4. And I put it over my second factor, which is a 1. And now I want to simplify. This factors out of 2. So when I'm left with 1n minus 2, which is just n minus 2. And the next one doesn't simplify, so I just have 2n plus 1. And now I bring down my equals 0. Take my first parenthesis, set it equal to 0 and solve. And then I'm going to take my second parenthesis, 2n plus 1, I set it equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to have n equals 2 as one of my solutions. And over here, I'm going to divide both sides by 2 now, and I have n equals negative 1/2. Okay, my next example, if you look, this one's factored out already. Basically, it's already down to this step right here. So all I have to do is take this one and set it equal to 0 and solve, and then take this parenthesis, set it equal to resolve. So this one was halfway done for us. So we get x equals negative 4 is one of our solutions. And then on this side we solve for x, and we're going to get x equals, looks like 1/5 as our other solution. Okay, our last one, the first thing we need to do is shift everything over here so that we can get a 0. So I'm going to subtract m squared. I'm going to subtract 12m from both sides. Subtract m squared and subtract 12m from both sides of my equal sign. So I get m to the third right here minus m squared minus 12m equals 0. Now, I always have to check for a GCF. I need to take an factor an m out of them. If I factor an m out of this, I have m squared minus m and minus 12. Okay, once I've taken my GCF out, I want to see if I have rooftop here. What multiplies to give me a negative 12, but it's going to add to give me a negative 1. So I multiply factor, so it's 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Well, 3 and 4 will get me a 1. I just need it to be a negative 1. That means this needs to be a negative 4. So it needs to be positive 3 and a negative 4. So it's going to be positive 3 and a negative 4 are going to be my factors. So I'm going to have m over positive 3. I'm going to have m over negative 4. Nothing cancels, so I have m plus 3, m minus 4. I dropped my GCF that we pulled out earlier, and now I solve. Now I need to set each part. I set this equal to 0, and that's one solution. Now I'm going to set this equal to 0 and solve. And then now I'm also going to set this equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to get m minus 4 equals 0. So after I set each of those equal to 0, I have my solutions to be m equals 0, m equals negative 3, and m equals 4. Also, on all these problems, to check my answer, I can take one of my solutions, negative 4, plug it back in everywhere x is at, and solve this to see if I get a true statement. So you can check your work on all of these by substituting each value back into your original equation and solving for a true statement.